Tuesday, 17th of February 2013, 2015. Where am I thinking? I'm thinking about Valentine's Day. That's why I'm saying 2013. And it was Friday the 13th, last Friday. No, I'm there. Good evening to you and welcome to the show. My name is Herman, your host up until 8 o'clock. This is Small Business Connect Radio, and we live with the Commissioner, Astrid Ludin, for CIPC Candid Conversations. We've got a series of these shows that are coming. So thank you very much for your contribution thus far. In Cape Town, we joined tonight by the editor, Nabila. Good evening, Nabila, and welcome.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Herman.
Also, I'm looking forward to being with you up until 8 o'clock. Usually it's Christoph down in Cape Town. Of course, tonight he's in Joburg. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. But as usual, we're joined by the CIPC Commissioner, Astrid. Astrid, good evening once again.
Good evening, Herman.
And our special guest for tonight is Sia. I'm going to let him do the introduction. Sia, good evening, an entrepreneur and a practitioner. Welcome to the show.
Well, evening, Herman, and all the listeners tonight. Yes, my name is Sia. Coming from a company called the PTY Guy, and so as Herman said, as you said, Herman, we help people with registering their companies and all that. Yeah.
So you actually working hand in hand with the guys at CIPC, am I right?
Yes. Well, through the online platform. Yes, and yeah.
Also, I'm looking forward to hearing more about your company and what you have in store for us tonight. So thank you very much once again. Don't forget, you can do your contribution, do your bit to the show by following us on Twitter and submitting your tweets through @SASBconnect. And also on Facebook, Nabila will be monitoring that throughout the show. That's facebook.com/SASBconnect. And of course, the email, should you feel that you want to be private and send through a direct email to the team, our email address is info@smallbusinessconnect.co.za. Remember that email address. I'll share more about it later on in the show. That is your ticket to sharing your concerns, your views, your questions, not only to Small Business Connect team, but also to our stakeholders as well and partners. And one of them, Fortunate, of course, is CIPC. I'll tell you more about why you need to remember that email address. Commissioner, this is week 3, and as we do, once we're done with the show, the team, myself and the team, we sit down and we obviously in constant communications with entrepreneurs and other practitioners alike. And one of the issues that came up a lot, we're going to start with that, to give you an opportunity to clear the air, so to speak, the area about how to lodge queries and how to escalate the queries if they're not resolved. I believe there's a system, there's a procedure that one needs to follow. Can we start on that as we wait for questions for tonight's show?
Certainly, Herman. And I also saw from some of the feedback from the previous 2 weeks, as you mentioned, there are quite a few questions about the query resolution system. So let me take everybody through that briefly. So I'm sure everybody knows that we have service delivery standards. So if we use the example of a name reservation, what would happen is, let's say you lodge a name reservation application, and after the service delivery standard has passed, you haven't received your document and you're concerned. So the first thing you would do is you would go to our website, and at the top of the website, in the top bar, you'll find a tab that says Inquiries. When you click on that tab, it will take you through to the query logging system that we've created for the CIPC. You will be required to put your customer code and your password in, and in most cases you should be able to go into the query resolution system. We do have isolated cases where we haven't synchronized fully the customer codes that we have with a query resolution system. And if that happens, you need to send an email either to the Ombud, and I'll give you the details later, and that's generally where you would then complain to if you cannot access it. So once you're in the query resolution system, it will give you various categories. And it's actually very important that you get the category right. So we have people in the trademark section who look at the query resolution system and they see a query that relates to a trademark, or it says the category selected as trademark, but actually it's a company query. So
Sure.
that team will then not look at that query. So I think that's also part of what happens is queries get lost in the system if people don't pick the right categories. And then you need to give us the details of it. There is a built-in escalation process. So the way the query resolution system works is we've got people who watch it and then would either actually deal with the query or they would allocate it to a specific person. And you should be able to view all of that as somebody who's logged a query. So you can see who is the person that watches my query and who's the person that's been assigned to it. You can also see on the query resolution system what progress has been made. And if after 10 days there's been no movement on your query, then you need to escalate the matter. So the escalation right now is that you should send an email to the CIPC Ombud, and I think, Herman, I'd need to just confirm what the email address is. You could, I know there's an Ombud address. I just couldn't find it right now. But the alternative to that would be to send an email to Victor Macau, to vmacau, VMAKAU, at cipc.co.za. Victor is the Ombud. And Victor would then, his task is to try and resolve those issues and to obviously refer it back to the division. If you don't get a response from Victor, the next step then would be to send an email to me or to the Deputy Commissioner, whose name is Rory Voller, and his email address is rvoller, VOLLER, at cipc.co.za. So I think that's generally how the query resolution system works. It's very important that you don't duplicate your query, because otherwise what happens is it just clogs up the query system, and staff struggle to deal with it. So the way we deal with this is that staff in the back office, who are responsible also for capturing and processing applications, they review the query. So it's the name reservations team that's responsible for their queries. And you will find that some teams are very good at resolving their queries and other teams tend to be a bit slower. That's all good feedback. Or it would be good to get feedback from people. Firstly, whether or not they're getting a response from the Ombud, so that we can understand whether that system works. And secondly, which teams are not responding to their queries. We can obviously see it, and we are implementing performance measures and performance management in the organization that's linked to it. But it will take a little while to bed down, unfortunately.
Okay. Thanks for that, Commissioner. I think the two areas that you mentioned, the feedback that you'd like to get from users is the ombudsman system working in terms of response, and also which teams are not responding to queries. I think those are the two that came out to me that said you're looking for feedback. And I think, am I correct before I carry on?
I'm sorry, Herman. I was starting to look at the chats on the side. So I'm seeing a lot of questions. It's very difficult. It's very distracting.
Okay, cool. I think it was just that two areas that you'd like feedback on. I'm not going to repeat them. We'll sit down and the Ombud, and also which teams are not responding to queries. So we'll try and get some discussions going after the show in the next few days as well. So thanks for that, Commissioner. I think let's go straight into it. Norman has got a twofold question here. The first one says, name reservations according to the service delivery standards are 72 hours. Why is it currently taking 7 working days?
No, according to the service delivery standard, name reservations are 5 working days. It's not 3 working days, or what is it, 72 hours? I can't do the calculate. It's 3. That's 3 working days. It's actually 5 working days.
Yeah.
They are still on 7 working days, and I know yesterday they were working on the 4th of February, and today they would have been on the 5th, or they might have caught up some more. So yes, name reservations is behind by 2 days, but it's a very hard-working team, and they'll be back on track very soon.
All right,
I
cool.
saw
Norman, there you got the answer.
questions. Maybe Herman, I just saw another question relating to company registrations. The team is currently processing the 9th of February, or the 10th of February today. So if your application hasn't been dealt with, you need to either log a ticket. What would also be useful is if you check under transaction status where the transaction is. What we do know is happening is that the team who's dealing with company registrations is not managing to do all the processing, to review the applications and approve, and also send out. There's a separate queue for rejections. So there's a bit of a delay on rejections, and some of the transactions might have been rejected and you just haven't been informed yet. So we apologize for that if that is the case.
All right, cool. Cool, is that it? Can we move on?
Yes.
All right, cool. Can you hear me clearly there? Because I think there's a bit of a delay from my side. Moving on to the second one, or the next one from Tembisa says the most important question is, since the CIPC has introduced a new rule of directors printing their own MOIs, what happens if that director was a customer before and no longer remembers the password and the email address, or email details were not captured when she created the profile? I'm in the situation where I'm being told to contact CIPC telephonically, and I'm not having any joy as they do not pick up, and please advise me on what to do.
No, I think when we say contact CIPC, we don't necessarily mean telephonically, and I must say I wouldn't recommend that. It's best to send an email. For what you can do is log a query on the query system, or alternatively, you can send an email to K Mpakati, that's MPHAKATI at cipc.co.za. Komotso helps with password resets, and you need to just ask for a password reset.
Okay, did you warn your team to expect a flood of emails tomorrow?
No, I will warn Komotso tomorrow. She's dealing with password resets anyway. It is part of her function,
right.
So it's not a new function. I refer messages to her. What I can also just explain is why this is the case, because in the past people were able to create new customer codes, and so we have situations where people have more than one customer code. When you're being asked to contact us, it's because we know, we need you to choose one of the customer codes. So it's a security measure as well.
All right, cool. Douglas asks, why does it take so long for money to be transferred into a virtual account so we can do an annual return?
It shouldn't take very long because it's actually an automated process. We have problems with allocations if the client hasn't indicated the customer code clearly. Sometimes they are, because we deal with different banks, but the money is all deposited into ABSA. Sometimes we do have a problem, for example, with Standard Bank. They jumble things, and that's when we pick up a problem. The other issue is that I think people need to be aware of is we don't actually accept check payments. But we can't reject a deposit once it's made. It comes through to us. So if it is a check deposit, we've now instituted a 60-day waiting period. So I don't recommend anybody using checks.
Cool. All right, Sia, if I can ask you to mute your mic there for me, just for the time being. I think we're getting a slight feedback on my side. I don't know if the other guys are getting it as well. And then we move on. I don't know, Nabila, did you want to say something?
No, not right now. I'm just monitoring whether any questions are coming through on Facebook, but I see most of the guys are signed into the show at the moment.
All right, cool. And then if we move on, the commissioner, there's a question from Soli Makula. He says, I submitted supporting documents for company 1, 2, and 3 at the same time in the same order, but I received 14.3 for 1 and 3 only, despite all submitted documents being correct. In what order are companies registered?
Companies should be registered in the order, in a particular order. So what might have happened last year, I think I've mentioned this on a previous show, we experienced some difficulties in October and November where staff allocated the wrong documents to the wrong companies. So we have got companies in the system for which we don't have supporting documents at this stage. So if you have lodged a company, you haven't had a response yet, and that company was lodged in October or November last year, then you definitely need to log a query. If it's a number of companies, you can send those through to me. I send them to IT, to our ICT section. We have a process of resolving those.
All right, cool. You mentioned that we should use the email vmacau@cipc.co.za. Another response that came through from Theo says Victor Macau doesn't respond either. So I think that's one feedback for you there, Commissioner, that the Ombudsman doesn't respond to queries as well. Or in the timiest manner, let me not say it doesn't respond to queries. Apologies there. And then at the same time, we had one. I lost it. I had it now. It was also about escalating.
Okay, there's one from CEO asking the commissioner to advise which date the CIPC is working on conversion lodgements. So he's been waiting over 2 months.
Yes, no, there's definitely a problem with manual applications, and conversions are manual applications. There's no particular date on which they're working. It is a bit random at the moment because there are different teams working on the manual applications. We have instituted what we call an incentive scheme in the company section, the new company registration section, to allow, it's basically to incentivize faster processing, and that's why we've managed to catch up on the electronic transactions. Once they've finished and they're up to date on electronic transactions, the team will then turn to the manual transactions. There is not a vast number of them, but I'm also getting quite a few complaints about conversions. What I would say to people is please be patient just a little bit longer. If we haven't sorted out the conversions and the manual applications by the end of February, please send the details of those documents through to me so that we can get them sorted out.
Okay. And Astrid, just to be clear, the incentive scheme is obviously for your staff. Just to be.
Yes, it is an incentive scheme for the staff. Absolutely. Yeah.
All right, cool. Back on the website being non-user friendly, Commissioner, and I think we issued a challenge to the guys last week to give you ideas or comments on how you guys can make it user friendly. I mean, the other one just came through now from Tebogo. He says your website is not user friendly and the queries facility is dysfunctional. May I challenge him into saying, can he elaborate further so that we can move on to the next question?
Please do.
Tebogo, send through Commissioner an email, or you can submit it to info@smallbusinessconnect.co.za. Give a few hints on how you'd like to see the website being designed and being published so that it can be more user friendly. And I think that also came up during the week. I saw one or two. So let's issue it back to you guys. How would you like to see it so that the team can incorporate these when they do website admin and changes in the near future? Moving on to Razia, he says, Astrid, you mentioned last week that CIPC is in the process of new registrations that was launched 14 January, but I sent 2 new registrations in October last year and still no tracking on these.
Razia, what you need to do is send me the numbers, the tracking numbers for those applications. I will need to send them to IT to look into where the problem is. I think it could be those applications I mentioned earlier, for which the supporting documents were allocated to the wrong documents. We'd need to just examine where the problem is.
All right. Maggie Zili responded to a question that Anita Kupal asked Elias. This is the beauty of technology, so we don't have to wait for the commissioner to respond. So if I can just touch on that example for now. Anita said the mail delivery failed when I try and email our COR 39 supporting document. And then she comes on to say, make sure your attachments are within the size limit. Am I correct? That could be the reason why the email failed?
That's correct. There's a limit of 5 what is it, megabytes?
MB.
Sorry, MB.
Yeah,
the evening.
5 MB.
5 meg. We recommend that you scan the document, and remember, it needs to be one document that's attached in the email, not a number of documents. That you scan it at a resolution of 150 dpu. So just look at that setting on your scanner and make sure that you send it through. That is the firewall of the DTI that doesn't allow documents that are bigger in. So you need to make sure that you get the right resolution on your scanning.
Cool. Thank you very much there for clearing that up there, Commissioner. Sia, it's 22 minutes past 7. Let me ask a question before I bring you back in. I'm just going to cue you to be ready for us there, my man. Commissioner, also, can I lead you on to a question that we'll ask? I don't know if Sia is going to touch on it or you're going to touch on it later in the show. The area where CIPC can now do BE verification. Can we touch on that on the show, or would you prefer it to be in another show altogether?
No, I think that's fine. We can touch on that.
All right, good. So we're going to touch on that later on in the show. I'll just made a mark on it. So we're going to go back to that in just a little bit. Okay, and now another question from, I think from Sam. He says, thanks for this webinar. Pretty new to this. I've tried to log inquiries or queries for my documents that have been launched but were not successful. I did not get any further correspondence. We'll try these emails mentioned. Oh, thank you very much, Sam. I should read the question next time before I ask it. Okay, now from Millie Lurie. Says, good evening, everybody, and especially to Astrid. Do not want to rehash any issues already discussed, but disclosure remains a serious concern, and the online system, which has been designed for ordering copies, is not working properly. IT needs to redesign the block marked other as the wording typed in there is being cut off, and as a result, applications are not being processed correctly. Furthermore, the tick boxes on the online program do not refer to all relevant forms required. Please look into this problem with IT and the serious backlogs. I don't know if you got the gist of the question.
I did. Thank you, Millie. That's a very useful recommendation, and I'll certainly have IT look at that. I agree, disclosure is still one of the problem areas in the organization, and we need to have a serious look at it. I think we did have a meeting with you recently after the first show, and we tried to explain some of the concerns, some of the problems to you, but I agree with you, and please be assured that we are looking into it. Use the query system and use the escalation process to get responses. Please.
All right. I think this is a follow-on from Norman, and apologies there, Commissioner. I don't know if you've this follows under the area where he needs to escalate to the ombuds, but the word ombuds there because he didn't receive feedback. Last year when you guys moved to a new system, data was lost and it was escalated and all processes and escalated. So would you say then he should just pick it up with you or with the other email address, Arvola, for example?
Norman, I see your request, your query. I'm not aware that we lost any data. We did not lose any data when we moved over because I think the only thing that might have happened is that we decommissioned certain systems. And so, for example, certain director changes. If you hadn't received your password before the 17th of September, we asked everybody to resubmit documents after that. So I don't know that it's correct to say that any data was lost. If there's something particular, I think you do need to send it through. And you know, I see that in your chat you say that you still didn't receive any feedback even after escalating to me. I think you need to maybe just clarify, is that because I didn't respond to you, or when I referred the matter to somebody else, it wasn't escalated, it wasn't resolved. Please just clarify that, Norman.
All right, Norman, if you can clarify that, you can send through an email, info@smallbusinessconnect.co.za, or you can just, if you have time, just post it here as well, because we're going to capture everything that's on the chat. And talking about capturing, we are working together with the CIPC as Small Business Connect to capture all the questions that have been asked in the last previous shows, including these ones, and also the ones that are on Facebook as well. We're going to announce when we're going to publish these on a wiki site where you're going to have to register to be moderated, and then all the questions that have been sent through in the series. We're still working out a system. There's a lot of questions that came through, and we want to make sure that they're done and dealt with, and they're published properly. Ideas such as grouping them into, if it's a tracking question, you just click tracking and all the tracking questions, or lodging queries and all the questions there, registration, all are going to be there. So we're just not going to scatter all these questions willy-nilly. We're working on a system, so it's going to take time, but all the questions, just to put it out there, they will be shared at a later stage, and we're working very hard to make sure that we do that in the next few days. So just bear with us. It's something that we want to do properly. Nabila, you want to come in there? I don't know if you want to add something quickly before I move on to Sia.
I'd just like to add that we obviously can't answer case-by-case questions. So it will be generic questions that we'll be addressing. I think that Astrid, on the other hand, is also working to answer individual questions. And just on that point, we have we actually have some feedback for Astrid from Tembisa. She's saying, please thank the cooperatives department. They are very quick in processing and responding to queries. Job well done.
Thank you very much for that.
And while we're still on the area of responding, Bulelang, who was a guest on the show last week, made a few. He's very active on social media, I'll tell you that. So last night he got his queries resolved, and he posted it on our Facebook page, and also on the Small Business Connect website, saying that his queries have been resolved. So I think it's just a further confirmation that work is being done. With a little bit of patience and a little bit of understanding, you will get your queries sorted out. I know sometimes time is money, but things I gotta follow a certain procedure, I suppose. So congratulations, I suppose, Commissioner, to you and the team.
Thank you very much, Herman. That's great. You know, Herman, I see.
Yeah, sure.
No, let's go on to Sia.
I
see a lot of questions.
All right. Sia, I'm going to bring you onto this now, in 29 minutes after 7. So I'm going to hand over to you, and I'll be in and out in the chat between you and the Commissioner. Over to you, man.
Hi, well, Herman, well, thanks for the opportunity to be here. I had a bit of communication with with Astrid a few days ago in preparation for this. I had asked her a few questions, and hopefully I mean, she did explain a little bit to me but I was just hoping I'd just ask them again, just for the benefit of the listeners. There was this announcement made in December last year, where CIPC said they're now a BE verification agency, and I wanted to find out really exactly how how that will work. I know it's currently not available right now for apparently it's just available on the self-service terminals, if I'm not mistaken. Is that feature coming? Is it going to be rolled out on the online system as well? For everybody other than the SSTs. Yeah, that's my first question.
Okay, so yeah, let me answer before you ask me another question, and I can't remember what all the questions were. So yes, we were accredited by the DTI to be a BE verification agency, but the service that we provide is really just the initial service for companies, newly registered companies. So the reason why DTI is allowing us to do that only on SSTs at the moment is because we do a biometric verification of the individuals who register the company, who are the directors of the company, and that's why they feel comfortable with that. What we have been thinking about and we've talked about is that what we would really like to do is make sure that the kind of technology that we have available on the SSTs is more widely available. And so we are going to roll that out in 3 ways. The first is that we're going to have another office in one of the 9 provinces. We haven't decided quite which office yet. We're also going to be we have partnerships, for example, with Transnet and with SARS and the IDC, and we will place self-service terminals at those sites. And then the last idea that we had is that what we would really like to do is make it available to intermediaries as well. So people either who are company secretaries or providing company secretarial services, accountants, or people who are just in the business of helping people register. Because what it really will require them to have is a fingerprint scanner that's compatible with the Department of Home Affairs' requirements. And we're currently working through the details of that program. I'm hoping that we can roll it out in about 2 months' time. So by about April, we should be able to roll it out. And essentially then we will make available to people who want to offer this service the kind of technology that we have on SSTs. And let me just explain what that means. For example, company registration processes on these self-service terminals are fully automated. Not the name reservation process, but the company registration process. The same, I think there are other services available as well. You can do a password reset. You can do, you can request a disclosure document. You can request, let me just think, it's the financial year-end changes and the company record changes, which currently are available on the website as well in an automated way. But not everything is automated yet, and it's through the self-service terminals and that technology that we are going to be making available. I think a lot more people will be able to provide quicker services, especially around company registration.
Yeah. Oh, you know, I never thought of that. I think that's a great initiative. Something similar to maybe say an intermediary would have, in addition to them buying a a biometric fingerprint scan, would they have to have the app an app or something from CIPC that they'd have on their systems to to put the two together?
Yes, you'd need to be able to access the kind of web services that we provide for the SSTs, but that is quite easily made available to you, and you don't need to download it, I don't think. But for the fingerprint scanner, you would need to download the application, the Home Affairs application. So we would need to load that onto a particular computer. And I think that those are the details that we're trying to work out right now. We need to know which computers you're downloading that onto. because if any partner or intermediary misbehaves, we'd obviously like to curtail their ability to continue processing.
Yeah. Well, great. I had another kind of, thought, suggestion, so to say, because, I guess I've just been looking at the past two shows, and, I told Herman this, and I said she gets so many, and I just a suggestion, just to see if, this would be possible. I don't know if I'm proposing to the right commissioner for this, but currently, right now, you have the tax registration being simultaneous, with the company registration happening at the same time. Is it possible that also a tax clearance certificate could also be done at the same time? I'll tell you why I suggest that. We have a lot of clients. They come to us. They say, we want to do tenders, and we need certificates. We need a BE certificate. And obviously, I think having such a a platform would really be beneficial for them, because I mean, obviously right now we have to we charge them for a company registration and also for a tax clearance certificate and a BE certificate. But if those things like a company registration and a tax clearance certificate being combined, well, it works out being cheaper for them should they opt to use intermediaries and so forth. Is that something that would be possible that you'd consider, Astrid?
See, I think it's a great idea. We've been speaking to SARS for 3 years, and we've put a sort of data exchange in place which now allows for the tax registration to happen simultaneously, as you mentioned. Tax clearance certificates are a little bit more difficult. SARS is trying to automate it, and I think they recently launched something. I know there were a few hiccups with it. They are just quite concerned about issuing tax clearance certificates if they can't do so, if they can't do all the necessary checks and verification. But I think it's something that I'll ask the team to discuss with SARS. So that I understand for tenders, it's quite important, and maybe if it's a new entity, they would be more willing to do that.
Yeah, because I guess the suggestion was kind of directed to new entities, because I mean they would be they would be clear anyway. It would be easier for them to obviously get their certificates, tax clearance certificates that way. Yeah.
The other thing, Thea, that we are also working with the UIF, because in the same way as we do the push the data to SARS, and then SARS initiates the tax registration, we also want to assist people register for UIF. But these things take a little while, because it's two departments that need to synchronize their IT, so it can get a little bit complicated sometimes. But it's all in the pipeline.
Okay. All right. Sorry, I don't know if I asked you this. Do you know when you plan on rolling out that? Sorry, what you mentioned earlier on about that service for that software for self-service terminals being available to intermediaries.
I'm hoping that we can do that in about 2 months' time.
Oh, okay. Nice. Okay.
I'm
so
sure
we're
you
trying to do it
could
quite
be one
quickly.
of no.
Come again, Herman?
I'm sure you'll be one of the first few to know.
Oh yeah, that would be great. No, I always look at the notices every day that appear on the website, so I always try to get my ears on the ground.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Thank you very much, my man. We'll come back to you in a bit. All right.
Okay. Thanks.
Commissioner, we move on. It's 39 minutes after 7. We just got a tweet from Opa Mapelle. He says, what is done by CIPC? Oh, my tweet just went off now. Hold on. I'll find it. Here we go. It says, what is done by CIPC to address non-electronic savvy rural people with their deregistered companies and new company registrations, etc., etc.?
Well, I think the reality is that if you don't lodge an annual return on the website, and you don't make the payment, then and it happens consistently for more than 2 years, then we will deregister you. So that's why self-service terminals, why we think self-service terminals offer so much opportunity, because you can lodge your annual return at a self-service terminal. And so making self-service terminals accessible is how we are hoping, through the 3 ways that I've mentioned, is how we plan to be accessible as an organization to people all over the country, even in rural areas.
All right, so thanks for that. So you gotta do your bit and follow protocols and submit your returns and pay whatever needs to be paid, otherwise we'll be in trouble. So moving on, Commissioner, to a question from Razia. I don't know if I missed this one last week. It's a question though. She says, I attended a webinar last week called CIPC Update. We were told that the system crashed last year, October, and that if you submitted any applications at that time, that it should be resubmitted due to lack of data. Is that true?
I'm not aware of any crash in October. I'm not sure if maybe there was a reference to an email box, but I must say, off the top of my head, I can't think of any problem that we had in October. Perhaps if you give me a little bit more detail, it may be that a particular email box crashed. That may be the case. And I'd need to just go back to the office and double check on that. But there was no major systems crash. What did happen is when we launched the new website in September last year, we found that our database wasn't able to respond fast enough to the kind of, so there was a disconnect between the way the website had been developed and the database that we have as an organization. And we weren't entirely sure where the problem was. So we worked through all the options. Was it bandwidth? Was it this? And we ended up understanding that it was the database. And then we procured some software which allowed it to be synchronized. So unfortunately, that took about a month. And in that process, a lot of applications weren't fully, couldn't be fully submitted on the website. I'm not sure if that is what the listener is referring to, but perhaps if you could send me more details on what exactly it was referred to. It might have been one area of the organization, but there was definitely no organization-wide crash at all. We haven't had crashes in probably 2 years.
All right. So Razia, there, please supply the Commissioner with more information so that she can follow up on that one. And moving on to Albert, he says, in a number of instances, we found that directors are duplicated on the COR 39, thus appointed twice. Why is this happening, and what should be done to rectify this?
I'm not entirely sure why that's happening. I have seen one query like that recently. I think it could be because you submitted both an electronic and a manual application. But if that does happen, please send the details to an email address which is corrections, so CORREC, so corrections at cipc.co.za. That is the team that fixes any problems with ID numbers or duplication of directors, and just send them the supporting documents through. They will effect the necessary changes. I will follow up internally to see if there is a particular problem that results in the duplication, other than us capturing something manually as well as it being submitted electronically.
Awesome, thank you. Moving on to another question from Tabi Singh, says ID number for member reflecting correctly on the system, but incorrectly on the free disclosure. Please help.
I think it may just be that you're looking at the wrong disclosure. Again, what I would suggest is that you submit that to corrections. What they will do is they're based in IT, and they will have a look at it. And if you don't get a response from a correction, send it through to me. I'll get an IT person to look at it for you.
All right, great. Another one from Elri says 2 of my COR 15.2 were received back. It's for the same client with the following query: the amendment was not approved. No image relog documents. One of the COR 15.2 was a change of name, and the name lapsed on the 13th of February. I was then told by the special resolution section to relodge the documents, as I feel it is unfair. Name reservation has a major backlog, and I really feel it is not my fault that there is a problem with the images on the document. Please advise, from Elri.
Elri, if you don't use a PDF document, preferably, or I think it's a TIFF document that we can accept and that we can view. If you submit a JPEG, the team can't see it. It literally, they can't see it. So if that wasn't the case, then I think you need to escalate the matter to Lucinda Steenkamp. Her email address is lsteenkamp at cipc.co.za. She is the team manager responsible for those amendments. But I must tell you that I know some of the managers, especially the managers who actually review their queries and solve their queries on the query logging system, they may very well ask you to log a query about that on the system first before they will resolve it.
All right, great. I'm trying to track a question from, is it Theo, about the BE verification. Just bear with me there, Commissioner. I think it's going to lead us nicely into the chat about BEE verification. You know, these questions, they just scroll. You pick one, and then next minute you go back to it. It's all jumped all over the place. So I think this is the one, but I'll just ask it anyway. This is not the one. Just so we move on, I'll look for it properly. Please advise us on what date is CIPC working on conversion lodgement. I think you did look into that one. Let me go for the one from Sam. Yeah?
Hi, maybe I can help you with that question from Theo. Commissioner, Theo wants to know that surely the BE rating must be rated on the shareholders and not the directors of the company, as the shareholders hold the shares in the company and not the directors.
But remember, the companies that we register on the SSTs, Theo, are the directors and the shareholders are the same. Pretty much, because it's the incorporators and the directors. So that's my look. I might not be answering this technically correct. I wasn't involved. You know, I don't know all the details of the development. I can ask the team. If you send me an email, I can refer it to the team, and they can give you a more correct response on this.
All right. I think this is the other one, but I'll take it because we've got 12 minutes to go about BE verification. It's from Maxima Zibugo. It says, how do we navigate and link the applying of the BEE certificate during the registration process of the company and also on the anniversary of the company?
I'm not sure that I understood that question entirely. Sorry.
Maybe if I try and understand it, rephrasing it would be, how do they apply for BE certificate during the company registration process?
Okay, you need to do that up front when you register your certificate, your company. I think that's when you apply for a BE certificate. And it's only available at a self-service terminal at this stage. Otherwise, you need to go to one of the other BE verification agencies.
Okay, just on that, what is the procedure then for CIPC when someone wants to register or apply for a BE certificate? I know you said you must do it when you up front when you register a company. But
Yes.
for example, let's say a company's been trading and you want to now apply for a BE certificate. Is it only for new company registrations or even already trading companies?
We have only been accredited to provide it to new entities. So we don't have the authority to do it more widely because we don't do any in-depth analysis of it. It's just for new entities, and it's only for small entities.
Okay. And the duration process, is it similar to registering a company? For example, when you get your registration docs, are you going to get it as well?
Yes, that's my understanding. It's an automated process.
Okay, and all the fees and everything?
We don't charge a fee for that.
Okay. All right. I think that's clear as daylight. And new company registrations, you get it when you get your documents, and there's no there's no fee for that one. So I think, yeah. But how long has this been there, Commissioner? Is it been something you've been for a while, or you said last year? Eh?
We started it at the end of last year, I think. We launched it. We didn't make it. We wanted to do a separate launch with a DTI on it. So we haven't formally launched it yet. I think we just made an announcement last year when we opened the office that we have at the JSE, the Johannesburg Securities Exchange. That's when we made an announcement in that regard, and I think that's where Sia saw it on our website. So we haven't done a huge number of them. I think we've only issued about 300 certificates. So it's not something that people necessarily ask for. A lot of people ask for when they initially register. Okay. So and also, you know, there isn't a lot of publicity about it. We've not issued any publicity about it. We've been waiting to do it jointly with the DTI.
Okay. And can I move a step further and say, in the future, is the CIPC is looking at existing trading companies, or you want to stay within your mandate of company registrations and the likes?
No, I think for now it's really about making it easier to start. So I think we would probably spend more energy on the things that Sia has mentioned about you know, tax clearance certificate initially, or UIF registration, really making it easier for people to start up. There are other agencies that provide these services, and it's not our intention to, you know, encroach on that market. That's really not. It was more about providing an integrated service to entrepreneurs who want to start up. And as I've said, once we make the self-service terminal technology available, intermediaries will have that, you know, will be able to use that as well. As the only requirement from the DTI was that there's a fingerprint verification of the directors.
All right. May I then at this point also bring in maybe what you're talking about is also making it easier for people to register and to start up. The partnership that you guys have with the FNB, is it in line with what you're talking about? One center where you can get all these things at the same time, or not really at the same time, but in the beginning, make it easier for people.
Absolutely. So through FNB, you obviously open a bank account and register a company at the same time. And when we register the company, we push the data through to SARS, so the tax registration also happens. We haven't integrated a BEE component in that, but maybe that's something that can be explored further as well. Because, you know, again, the difference is that there's some upfront verification of who the individual is. So, and what we want to try and do is provide these integrated services to businesses, especially to small businesses who start up.
Okay, I don't know if Sia will have a few cents here as well, but on Facebook, Commissioner, just on this FNB partnership that you guys have, Mankolama Remet says, as innovative as the FNB involvement was, is the Commissioner considering the small businesses that primarily sell this as a service? Where do we feature? I'm not going to ask the second part of this question because I'm not understanding it, so I'm just going to leave it there for now.
Herman, can I just respond? Because that question speaks to what I've been saying about the self-service terminal technology. What we're saying is, you know, when we started with FNB, we developed something new, which was an automated company registration. And we made it available to FNB and to other banks because they do an upfront verification of who the people are that are registering the company. So with the self-service terminals, we've used that automated company registration, but we do a different kind of a verification. We now do a biometric verification. And what we're saying is that we will make that available to intermediaries, including those small businesses out there that do provide these registration services. There will just have to be some kind of a process around it. And we're looking at whether we're going to place any restrictions, any requirements on them before we make it available. But yes, what we did with FNB was the beginning, and we will be making something similar available to small businesses out there.
Awesome. There you go. I hope you're listening to that response there, Makula. Moving on, Commissioner, we've got a few more minutes left for the show tonight. Let me pick a question from, I think, Sam. He goes, I'm also waiting for a COR 15.2. I usually upload my COR 44s directly onto the website. CK2A manual forms do take a bit longer, though. I think he's commenting about the size of the email and uploading of the document. You said 5 MB megabytes, and also it's got to be PDF.
That's correct. PDF or TIFF. But what I really would like to encourage people to do is to use the electronic services where they are available. So if there is a director change or a member change, use the electronic process unless you've got a foreign director or foreign member. In those cases, you need to do a manual application, or if there's a special character in the name, sometimes people struggle to load those on the system because it's a complicated explanation, but you know, the Home Affairs verification kicks it out. So those are the only two types of transactions that I think people should do manually. Where we have electronic transactions, please use them because we require the staff to focus on those transactions and to process them faster.
Awesome. I think this will be the final one before I ask you and the other guys to wrap up as well. From Inet Cotier, why have we not been receiving our disclosures via email? We do get all other documents via email. Have tried several times, paid for disclosure, and eventually have to obtain it from additional services and pay for the same thing again.
I'm not sure that I understand that. You should be able to get your disclosures via email. I'm not sure. I think maybe I need to get a little bit more detail in it on that. So maybe you should send me an email and just explain what exactly the problem is, so that if it's a broader issue, we can look into it, or there may be something small that would make an easier answer, give you an easier answer.
Hopefully, Commissioner, this will be an easy one, a quick one to respond, not necessarily an easy one. But just from Inet Cotier, it says, where do we get deregistration dates of companies and CCs?
You know, Inet, I think I'd need to just check with the team. That's again is an answer that I can't provide you off the top of my head. I think they should be. You should be able to get those on the disclosures. But I know I've seen some other queries like this. So perhaps again, let me follow up on that, and just send me an email, Inet, with these two issues tomorrow, so that I can get somebody to respond to you and provide the correct answer.
As always, time is not on our side. I'll repeat this before we wrap up the show. We're busy compiling a Q&A guide, which we're going to publish in the next few days. This will essentially capture the questions that were on this show and also the previous shows as well, as we cannot get to all the questions in 1 hour. So keep following our Facebook page. I mean, I'm sure we're going to send through to our newsletters as well. And once we published it, obviously we're going to announce it here as well on the show. But it's something that we're busy working on. Small Business Connect team together with the CIPC team. So once everything has been formulated and it's ready, we're going to publish it. So just bear with us. Thought I squeeze that in there before I leave. In wrapping up, let me start with Sia. Sia, your last few words before we say goodbye, everybody. Okay, let me bring in Nabila, or you can jump in there.
From our side,
Well,
I just like to say that. Okay, Sia, go ahead.
No, it's fine, Nabila. You can go first. It's fine. I can go after you if.
Okay, Nabila, you can go ahead.
Okay, so from our side, I'd just like to say it was nice to see the interaction and to see some of the attendees to Tonight Show help, like other attendees. Yeah, and also just to reiterate to everybody that we will be compiling the question and answer guide, and that will be the dates regarding that will be made available via our Facebook page and via the email addresses that were used to register for the show.
Nabila, that is awesome. I touched on it, and it actually excites me as well, so that we don't necessarily have to ask these questions out. If other users know the responses and they've used it or they know exactly, they can just share it with others. So that's brilliant. So the beauty of technology. Sia, over to you, my man.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Thanks. Well, just I guess myself and the staff here at the PTY guy, we, the new website, we haven't seen any problems with it. I would guess except for the issues faced when it first launched. But other than that, though, we found it very easy to use. I think the information on the website itself, it's nicely structured and categorized if you want to have a look at it. And also just I guess I word out to all practitioners out there that let's just follow the instructions on the website to the T. I think some of the problems that cause delays is really from our side, not really doing instructions as laid out on the website. So yeah, it's just an encouragement for us to really follow them to the T as they're written on the website. I'm sure a lot of practitioners won't like me for this, but I just thought I'd share that. Yeah.
Dude, you just listen to the name of your company, the PTY guy. I mean, really.
Yeah.
Never mind, though. Wrapping up the show, Commissioner, your last few words for tonight?
I just want to thank all of you. Herman, it was a great show again, and Nabila. And Sia, it was great chatting to you, and I must say I really enjoy the interaction. I've seen a lot of questions in the chat. It's a bit distracting sometimes because I just want to reply to them, but I just want to thank everybody for the level of engagement. It's really great, and I think with the feedback that we're getting, we will definitely be able to improve things. Lastly, Herman, I just want to thank Rudzani from our office, who I see has been responding to some of the chats. I'm not sure if you can hear me, Rudzani, but if you can, thank you. I've seen your answers. This has worked very well. We work well as a team, Rudzani. That's it from me, Herman.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Commissioner. Yeah, my man, thank you very much. We'll be in touch with you moving forward as well. And then Amelia, as always, Commissioner just said we work well as a team. Thank you very much for your help as well tonight in the absence of Christoph. So thank you very much. Once again, 3 minutes up to 8. We'll be back next week. Keep working hard. Keep pushing hard. 2015, make it your year. We're back again next week, the 24th of April. Keep following us on Facebook, that's SASB Connect, and also on Twitter at SASB Connect for your news that matters in this space. So thank you very much. Have yourself a beautiful evening. Bye for now.